Okay, hello. My name is John Chakri, and I'm doing a video on porn and the pandemic. Are people watching more porn during the pandemic? There's probably a guarantee that there's a spike in porn watching. So, part of the problem is people are, the industry is making a big spike probably globally right now. A lot of people are at home using their internet devices and watching porn. And this may be causing a problem socially. Now, I know that health is more important. This is an issue of health when it comes to porn addiction. I'm going to admit myself that I'm a little bit of a porn addict. I've managed to maintain staying off of porn for a few months now. Now, because this industry is rapidly growing, I'm not attacking the industry. What I'm trying to say is that for myself, while watching porn, I've denied my life in many different healthy ways. I haven't had a girlfriend for a really long time, so it's almost like I've chosen porn over relationships with women or relationships with men even, because I isolate with porn. Now, I'm talking as somebody that's has been addicted and could easily become more addicted to porn. During this time, while everyone's isolated at home or staying home, there may be an issue with porn addiction that's not being talked about socially. So, I'll give you a few examples. Say, for example, a Muslim woman walks in on her son that is self-gratifying or masturbating, watching porn. And this creates a rift in the relationship between the Muslim mother or the Islamic mother and the son. Now, these are issues that are happening all over North America and probably all over Europe, probably all over the world right now, where there's a rift happening as a result of people being addicted to porn or self-gratifying through porn. Now, I'm not saying that porn should be eliminated, and that it's not a good thing. We do need to deal with the shame of human sexuality. We do need to deal with this topic that it's not talked about that much. This topic is not talked about that much. So a Christian mom or a Christian father may walk in on their son or daughter that's observing porn. And if they're observing porn, they're in a situation where we're not equipped to deal with the alienation or the rift between relationships as a result of watching porn. So if a mother and father, be it an Islamic mother or a Christian mother or a father, that's experiencing this uncomfortable atmosphere of kids being isolated at home and isolating with pornography, it's something that we need to confront socially and as a group of people in relation to an addiction to porn. So how do we talk about this? That's part of the problem. The reality is that nobody would exist without human sexuality. Sure, there's stories like Adam and Eve, there was no sex for them to come into existence. Jesus, no sex for him to come into existence. Buddha, there was no sex for him to come into existence. So we live in a society that doesn't want to look at the reality of Adam and Eve or the reality of sexuality. Now, if we don't want to deal with the reality of what has brought us into existence, why are we continuing to be ashamed of the reality of our existence? Now, this can be associated to comparing aesthetics or beauty. Nobody wants to see Aunt Jemima and the Nutty Professor in the Garden of Eden. They want to see a model male and a model female that's in the Garden of Eden and shamelessly pursuing sex. So a lot of people may be watching this pornography and comparing themselves to other people's beauty or aesthetics. Aesthetics is the study of beauty, like the Lamborghini or whatnot. So if we're in a situation where people are comparing their phallus or their booty or their saggy boobs to firm boobs, or their cellulite or their overweightness to what they're experiencing in the porn, then we have many people that are alienated as a result of watching porn because they don't want to accept the reality of their own existence or their own sexual body. So I'm gearing this more towards men because men are more used to using porn than women. But if women are watching porn and they're comparing themselves to the performance of the models, this could cause a rift between female relationships where they don't talk about sex. They don't talk about openly the issue with sex. Like, I want this guy or I want this relationship. They don't talk about, oh, look at the cellulite. Oh, you're fat. Or all these different things that happen as a result of comparing ourselves, or females comparing themselves to models. Another example of how porn can be an issue is a married man that is no longer attracted to his wife's body as a result of stretch marks. Now, I'm not saying that stretch marks are ugly. I'm not saying that because it's an honor statement. It's like a badge of honor when a woman has stretch marks. But what I'm trying to say is that men that are married may want this pristine, pure, original, barely legal woman that doesn't have stretch marks as a result of birth. So if a woman walks in on her husband, given the consideration of how everyone is isolated in their homes now, if a woman walks in on her husband and he's self-gratifying to a movie of voluptuous, sporty, whatever category the porn is, the wife may feel like her husband is cheating on her. And I'm not trying to say that this is a wrong thing or a bad thing that the man is self-gratifying. What I'm trying to say is that it's an issue in our society that's not confronted when it comes to stretch marks. So if another example is if a teen is lonely and horny, we may have a situation where teens are experiencing anxiety as a result of their hormonal introduction into adulthood, where they're becoming copulating humans or coitus or sexual human beings. And in this isolation, they may want to leave the house to pursue a relationship with a female or a male and copulate, have sex. So if a teen or a young adult doesn't have the availability to talk to a mother or a father about their very powerful urge to have sex, we're in a situation where there's alienation, where there's a struggle, where there's a difficulty when it comes to the reality of human existence. Like, for example, this camera wouldn't exist without the initial activity of human sexuality. This room would not exist without the initial reality of human sexuality. So everything around us would not exist without the original activity of human sexuality. Now, human sexuality, when it's considered, is in a situation where in order for me to exist, I had to start off microscopically. So we're dealing with a microscopic issue, the sperm cell and the egg cell. So if the microscopic world is what had to bring me into existence within a relative or a macroscopic digestion, and I'm watching porn and that's a macroscopic digestion or the naked eye's digestion of the aesthetics or the beauty of pornography, we're in a situation where we're dealing with a microscopic enemy, which is the COVID-19 virus. And while we're in our houses and in our homes, we're dealing with an urge that's associated to microscopic activity, be it the sperm cell or the egg cell. So we're in a situation where porn is alienating us from the reality of human existence on this planet and in this universe. So if issues of jealousy and comparison is more important than understanding the reality of human sexuality, we're in a situation where humans are jealous and stuck in what the naked eye digests, or a macroscopic crisis. What I'm trying to do is be transparent in a difficult time. We're isolated at home, and it's probably a given that the porn industry is spiking, and a lot of people, be them Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, Sikh, or on the Red Road, we're in a situation where a lot of people don't know how to educate their children as to the joys of sex, the pleasure, the ecstatic nature of sex. And if we're in that situation, we have people, like for myself, I'm an average sized man, so I don't have a huge dong. And because I don't have a huge dong, does that mean that I can't be a participant in the world of sex? And if I'm not a participant in the world of sex, is the end of my life going to be associated to watching porn for the rest of my life? I hope not. So transparency is difficult. Like I just exposed myself as a human to the reality of my sexual identity as it's associated to aesthetics or beauty. So I don't have a huge dong. So if we're dealing with rifts in the relationships, what we have is we have a situation where moms and dads may be alienated, husbands and wives may be alienated. Children may not understand, or youth may not understand, why there is this activity happening in the house. So Buddha was born without sex. Adam and Eve were born without sex. Jesus was born without sex. Alexander the Great, his mother was impregnated by Zeus. So this is an interwoven thing all throughout human history. So the problem is that we have no response right now globally to deal with the issue of pornography as an aesthetic endeavor. Sure, there's obese women and there's obese men, and there's that fetish and all those fetishes of latex and whips and chains and leather and lace and all that stuff. So how do you talk about this? There are options in dealing with potential addiction to pornography. These are psychologists, clergy, therapists, and confiding in the global community, talking amongst each other about what's going on with our little teenage boy that's all of a sudden isolating and masturbating all over the place. I was one of those teenage boys that was obsessed with sex, and I was so ashamed because I didn't have an explanation for what I was going through. And because I didn't have an explanation for what I was going through, I was in a situation of complete isolation where I became almost criminal. Not like a rapist criminal, but I would lie to women and I would tell them everything that they wanted to hear so that I could bust a nut, so that I could ejaculate. Now the thing is that if we rely on the global community, we're going to hear all kinds of things. But if we rely on a pastor, then he's going to rely on the Bible. If we rely on a therapist, they're going to talk about the reality of transparency. So the issue is transparency. Like right now, I'm being transparent with you. I really don't want to be addicted to porn anymore. In this isolation where I'm isolating from the COVID-19 virus, I want to be in a situation where I don't have to worry about isolating with pornography. It's not a good companion because, sure, there's romantic videos, there's fetish videos, there's all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, I want to be with a woman. I want to procreate. I want to cause and affect a child. And I want to teach my child the birds and the bees. And the thing is, we've lost that art of teaching the birds and the bees to our kids. It's like, should we continue to abandon our children to the industry of pornography and feel alienated as an Islamic woman or an Islamic man or a Christian man or a Christian woman or a Catholic or whatever, or a Hindu? Like, we are in a situation where we need to deal with the reality of our existence here on planet Earth. And during this COVID-19 virus, we can hit two birds with one stone. We can deal with the issue of microscopic universe and bring it into a perspective for our consciousness. And we can deal with the issue of human sexuality, which is the reality of our existence. And the thing is if we realize that the microscopic universe is the larger universe, and we realize that our existence cannot come into existence without the microscopic mechanics or quirks or the quantum universe or the microscopic universe, then we're in a situation where we can deal with the reality of our existence. So if you're watching this, I'm just trying to be transparent. I'm just trying to be open. I'm trying to feel safe. I don't consider myself an evil human being because I watch porn. And I don't watch it. I haven't been watching it. I've been struggling with it. And I'm just trying to open up and be transparent about the reality of porn and this pandemic that's associated with COVID-19. So we need to talk about this with Muslims, with Christians, with Hindus, with Sikhs, with feng shui, and like I know I have a plant here and I have a map here and I have all that aesthetics, but it's the content of what I'm trying to say to you. It's the content of being in a situation where we can grow as human beings and we can express a new nature that isn't controlled by beauty. It's controlled by intelligence. So yeah, I hope you guys like this. Thanks.